Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bear Pen and another episode of Fallout Windy Wasteland. We're going to be diving back in with, as you can see, a slightly reduced cast tonight. We've got some folks who are traveling and detained in general, but we'll have more of the cast back next week for the season finale. And then, obviously, you'll want to keep your eyes peeled to the social media and our Discord to see once we make announcements about when season 2 will be kicking off for the series. So there will be certainly more Wasteland adventures to come here around the Bear Pen. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and introduce our cast for this evening. We'll start off with our resident vault dweller. Ari, why don't you go ahead and let the audience know a little bit about yourself, where they can find you online, and about the character that you'll be playing here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ari. Here, of course, I play Katya, but you've seen me on other Bear Pens shows. I play Elijah on Blood on the Bayou. I am the storyteller for Undead in Dallas, which is coming back for its second season starting in April. I also am over on the Cookout TTRPG's YouTube page where I play in Rivenwood and Reclamation, which are both D&D campaigns, so go check them out. Social-wise, if you want to follow me anywhere, it is Twitter, which has become possums. It's just possums. It's at Small Shadow Snack. So if you like possums, there's the possums.
Very, very good. And it is wonderful to have you back at the table here again. And I'm looking very much forward to Undead in Dallas kicking off. That should be a pretty fun romp with the crew that we have lined up for it. So I think everybody will be pretty excited to check that out. And then next up, we have Winter. Why don't you go ahead and let the folks know a little bit about yourself, where they can find you online, and who you'll be playing tonight?
Absolutely. My name is Winter, and you can find me on pretty much all the socials at G Mistress Winter. I play Betty, the Mrs. Homemaker model of the Mr. Handy robot line. And I occasionally show up at some of the community plays by Hunter's Entertainment.
And it is wonderful to have you back at the table with us again, and I'm looking very much forward to working on many projects with you in the future moving forward. As for myself, I am Alex Hillman. I will be the overseer for the proceedings here this evening, guiding our Wastelanders and Vault Dwellers through the windy wasteland of the Great Midwestern Commonwealth. And when we last left off, because I see no reason to delay things any further, we'll get our players initialized here and give you a quick little recap. So when we last left off, the players had started making their way from the ruins of Galena and pressing onward to Vault 66. It seems to be their at least nearest hope of potentially securing the chip that Vault 53 so desperately needs. They've had some interesting experiences along the way, especially for our Vault Dwellers who are just now starting to get a feel of the wasteland that they find themselves in. They've seen pre-war ruins, post-war settlements, strange wasteland creatures, and had numerous encounters with an assortment of colorful raiders. But now, as you can see here on our lovely world map, they are starting to get fairly close, actually, to the location of Vault 66. And where we pick up, they had been traveling for most of the day and pushing on until evening, when they would go ahead and set up camp just to try to cover as much ground as possible after having dealt with the little situation at the diner. Now, where we finally pick up, it is now 9:30 in the evening on the 17th of May in the year 2250. And the party is starting to come up to a cross-section of two separate highways. And around this cross-section, they've seen signs on the road indicating that they would find this, they see the ruins of yet another small pre-war settlement that had existed in the area. It doesn't look like anything impressive, more similar to the ruins that the party had traveled through on their way from Mound View down to the pre-war ruins of Galena, which so far have been the most robust locations that the party has found so far. So there might be some looting opportunity here. There might also potentially be a chance of finding somewhere decent to bunk down without having to just set up under the stars and sleep on the hard ground of the Wasteland, since, unfortunately, as it pertains to personal supplies for traveling, the party is fairly limited. There's food and water, of course, but nothing like even not even a sleeping bag, really, amongst them. Of course, this isn't an issue for our Miss Homemaker model robot, who doesn't require sleep or sustenance. But for the Vault Dwellers, this is a concern. Additionally, a little further down the road, according to the signs, it appears that there is some kind of a state park. It's likely that the vault itself actually exists somewhere within the confines of the state park itself, based on proximity. And from what you can tell, Vault Tech's modus operandi in regards to where they would have vaults placed throughout the country. So with all of that in mind, it would be prudent to point out that at this point, Katya and Aiden are starting to feel a bit worn down after a full day's travel. Specifically, you're each at the first tier of exhaustion, the second tier of hunger, and the third tier of thirst. This results in each of you having one fatigue at the moment, that in order to address it will require you to first take care of whatever is causing it. In this case, it happens to be your thirst is the one that has pushed you to the point of actually gaining fatigue points. And then you'll need some time as well. Rest to let your body recuperate. Thankfully, it being 9:30, it's getting about the time where you should be considering camp anyway. Now, as we noted, there are a couple of options available to you as you press forward here, and thankfully you've had a fairly, again, other than the morning and the incident at the diner, an uneventful day of travel. Just making your way through the desolate wastes. Now, you could set up here on the highway itself, or just off to the side of it. Just pick a spot of ground that doesn't seem too terrible. You could, of course, also try to push into the ruins and do a little bit of investigation. It will burn some time, obviously, and push you potentially a little bit further into the realms of exhaustion. But you might find something more suitable in regards to a place to bed down for the night. Alternatively, you could elect to just take a moment to address your thirst and hunger, the two needs most pressing to you at the moment. Maybe take a spot of rest, and then press forward and see if you can make it potentially to either the park or even the vault itself. So, as we zoom in to the scene here, the sky is now very much twilight, and the three of you are making your way down, again, a stretch of highway where just off in the distance you are now starting to see the ruins of a pre-war settlement as you weave your way through the hills of northwestern Illinois.
I detect that your eyelids are starting to droop. Maybe we should find a hotel for the night.
That's what I was starting to think. I could use some water and getting a bit hungry. I mean, the ruins are close by, but I don't know if we should roll up to them being exhausted.
I'm sure we can find something on the outskirts here. There has to be a motel, hotel, something.
She'll like look at her Pip-Boy. Doesn't give me accommodations, sadly. But maybe let's look around and see what we can find.
Can't seem to find a booking on there.
Can't connect. What? Oh, come on.
No
now.
Airbnb.
What do you mean, no vacancies?
All right, so we want to do a little bit of investigating of the ruins themselves here. Let's go ahead and we're going to make a perception and survival check. So not just a straight survival check. You will need to do it custom, as we've gotten fairly used to here. That's kind of the investigative check, essentially, in Fallout. And one of you can take the lead and the other can assist. And I will let you know that there are 5 action points in the pool, so whoever's taking the lead, if you wanted to buy an additional die, you're more than welcome to. Now, this is a pretty dilapidated and run-down pre-war settlement. So with that in mind, in order to actually find anything of worth is going to take 2 difficulty checks, so we're going to need at least 2 successes here.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at about 1 hour search time.
And I think we had the same survival perception, 9.
Ooh. I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I think I will use an action point just to up our luck.
Absolutely.
Why do I not have survival as a tag skill? Ooh.
All right, so we got the 2 successes that we're going to need bare minimum. Now, Ari, Katya can still go ahead and make the assist with 1d20, and it may generate you an action point if you happen to get a success here. It could also generate a complication, of course.
That's we're tempting fate tonight. So
why not? But we did get a success there. All right, so thankfully that means that it's a generally uneventful search. Now, one thing that we will want to potentially address is you do now have you're back up to 5 action points again. So with that, we could reduce the amount of time that the search itself took, and you can also spend action points to ensure that you do find a good place to bed down for the evening amongst the ruins. Each one of those requires 2 action points individually.
So it would be a total of 4?
Yep, to do both.
To do both, okay. I don't know, I think it's worth the extra little bit of time to find a nice safe place.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit of time will be fine, just to find somewhere safe to sleep.
Okay, so we want to spend 2 on the safe spot to rest for the evening, but we'll let the full time pass.
Exactly, okay. Yeah.
So that'll drop us down to 3 action points, and then I will also go ahead and move the clock forward here. So that is going to bring us to 10 p.m. by the time we actually find the location that is suitable for resting there. Now, let me just double check to see if... Okay, so thus far, things have not gotten any worse for you there, Katya. You're still at the exact same levels that you were. But as you start making your way through the ruins of this pre-war city, you're not quite sure the name. The sign that likely gave the town's name has long since deteriorated beyond the point of being legible. But you will also find a few odds and ends amongst the town here that I will allow you to nab as loot throughout the process. But you make your way through the ruins a little bit, kind of passing by the more crumbled and dilapidated buildings, and eventually you do find what appears to have been an old shop of some kind, possibly on what would have been the main street of the town. And it seems a bit more sturdy and intact than the surrounding buildings. The building itself appears to have been predominantly picked clean already, so it in and of itself doesn't have any special loot that would indicate to you what type of store it may have been. But the back office area does appear to be fairly secure, and you surprisingly also find an old, kind of junky looking at this point, but nonetheless it's a mattress that you'd be able to lay on back there, so clearly someone else has made use of this same location in the past. As for some things that you find as you're traversing through the ruins, I know, Betty, you've been a big fan of collecting the junk items as you've been going along. You do find an additional 3 items. You find a
I'll take
coffee
it.
pot, bowling ball, and paperweight
Oh,
as you make your way along.
2 coffee pots already. Okay. You said bowling ball?
Bowling ball and a paperweight.
All right.
And as per normal, those all weigh 2 individually. Then on top of that, if you have any empty bottles amongst you, which I do believe a few of you do, because anytime you drink something, you get an empty bottle and typically a cap as well. And I know you've had a few drinks along the way here. Plus, I think we've found a couple of random empty bottles along the way too. You do end up finding a small stream that runs through part of the town, and you'd be able to gather some dirty water from it if you wanted to fill up any of the empty bottles that you have.
Yeah, I only see she's only got 1 empty bottle, but yeah, she'll fill it up.
Okay, so you can convert that from an empty bottle into a dirty water in your inventory there.
Just add 1 more.
That's a great idea. It has minimal contaminants.
That's just what I'm afraid of, but I guess it's better than nothing, huh?
Now, you can eventually learn to try to purify water, or possibly even find a place in a town that might be able to purify your water for you, for a cost, of course. But on the flip side as well, if you're out of purified water, dirty water is better than no water. So.
It may be irradiated, it may give you cancer, but it's still good for you.
She'll take the edge off a little bit.
So as you all settle up in the ruins of some type of pre-war store, what are your plans for the evening?
I think she's definitely going to drink some water because I have 1 purified water, so I'm going to drink that.
Okay. So that won't get you all the way back to fully good, but it will get you down to the tier 1 of the thirst there.
And then I think she'll drink 1 of the bottles of dirty water.
Okay. So that
Try
will
to
get
get it
you
up there.
completely clear on the thirst, but I will need you to go ahead and roll a single combat die,
You knew.
and we'll find out if you end up with any radiation here.
Or a 3rd arm.
I mean, that 3rd arm might come in handy. Is it just a single die?
Yep, just single combat die. All right, you're good. No radiation.
You.
All right.
We'll fill up that empty bottle tomorrow.
So that does take care of your thirst.
And I think she'll have some of the mac and cheese because we got a decent amount of mac and cheese.
All right. And is that preserved or is that just standard?
I just see mac and cheese. I didn't see preserve.
All right, so that would have the irradiated tag on it
Yep.
as
Oh
well.
no!
The Blanco mac and
It won't
cheese.
also get you to full hunger satiation, so it will be able to move you 1 tier with the pre-war package stuff, so you'll still be at tier 1 hunger.
If I ate 2?
If you eat 2, you'll be completely clear, but you will need to make 2 combat die checks.
I'll do 2.
Rolling the dice with your stomach tonight.
Oh, so we did get 1 rad out of that as well.
You know, they could only be friendly for so long.
And if you want to note the rad on your character sheet there,
Where do
there's
I
a
put the
spot
thing?
for it on the front part with all your stats. It's right around your hit points. There's a spot for your radiation.
Yes. It's 1?
Yep. Which is pulling your maximum health down temporarily. Once the radiation goes away, you'll have your full access to the max health again. Which there are ways to take care of that. You may even have some. I can't remember if the group managed to get their hands on any diluted rad away.
I have 1.
Okay.
But I don't think it's bad enough for her to be like, yeah, let me use it.
Okay.
She's
Yeah, you
just
do
like,
only have the 1 rad right now. It's still pretty manageable.
Mhm.
All right. So
She's taking it in stride.
I am going to go ahead and update a couple of notes real quick to make sure I know when you need to next eat and drink again. So we're looking at 2200. Okay. And drink.
I think Betty is taking this time to move about the sleeping area and sweeping out dust or burning away cobwebs with her flamer.
Hey Betty, I got a question.
Yes, dear.
Do you remember the pre-war times?
Oh, quite certainly.
What was it like?
Well, it was beautiful. All the buildings were well constructed, if not cookie cutter. That's a term for it. They were made exactly the same.
Oh.
You had nuclear powered cars driving from place to place, carrying their human payloads from building to building, going to clubs and whatever else humans like to do for entertainment.
We had a lot of films in the vault. You know, that's how we got to see what it was like. It must definitely be a difference for you.
Well, considering that I've survived over the last 200 years, I've seen a slow, gradual transition to the current day apocalypse. So I can say I've adjusted to it.
It's must have been a little difficult. I mean, I'm still not used to any of this.
I would say the most difficult thing would be the loneliness. Not that robots require companionship, but 200 years of waiting for someone to come home or for any kind of interaction, well, that's just a long time.
It really is. I'm really glad you came with us. It's nice to have you.
Oh, dear. That's so sweet. I'm really excited to be along with you. I'd love to know more about you. I believe you have an offspring.
Oh, yeah. I've got his name's John. He's a Well, he's not really a baby anymore. He's technically a teenager, but he's my baby still. It's all I got really. Well, and Aiden, but she's my friend. He's the
Do
only
you
friend.
not have a mate?
Oh no, that never happened. I adopted John. His parents. Our vault is falls into disrepair a lot. And there was an accident, and I adopted him.
Oh, so you have not experienced birth.
No, thank heavens, no. You know, to be fair, the vault's very nice. It's very safe. I don't know about trusting any medical equipment in there to like in a pinch, if you know what I mean.
Well, I imagine that being human, any doctors in your vault would be flawed.
It's mostly like, cause it's kind of hard to say. I mean, they're good doctors. Like if I broke my arm, I'd go to them. But like anything serious, probably not. Making sure Aiden didn't hear me say that. I don't know her thoughts on doctors yet.
So they didn't provide you a doctor handy? That's a real shame. I'm sure they would have patched you up a lot more efficiently.
I would have appreciated one. It would have been a lot less nerve-wracking. But it's nice to be out here at least. It's not too bad. Vault Tech never told us it was safe to go out. We just had to because of the chip, and to be honest, we didn't think anything survived. So
Well, I can say that the chances of human survival after the bombs fell is infinitesimal, but humans have endured, and I think that is a testament to their die-hard nature.
I was going to say it's a testament to our hard-headedness.
That too. No, I can't imagine that the skull is as hard as my steel casing here.
You definitely have an advantage on us. I mean, if I got whacked on the head, I'm pretty sure it'd put me out of commission. I hope I don't get hit on the head.
You do have the advantage of being able to heal from injury.
And she kind of points to the sealed up bullet hole.
And you do ultimately have the ability to reproduce. Something that I was always curious about, but obviously am not capable of.
It's definitely a lot of difference, but a little similarities between us. Just maybe at the end of the day, you know, if we go back home, you come with us. There's lots of really interesting things in there.
I'd have to lock the house, make sure I turn the stove off, but yeah, I think that with user not found gone, then I don't have anything to go back to.
It'd be nice. You never have to wait on anybody coming home again. There'd be plenty of people. I should probably get to bed though, so we can keep moving tomorrow.
Of course, dear. I will keep a watch. I'll let you know and keep the night light on.
Thank you, Betty. She'll
after you all chit chat for about 10-15 minutes or so there, just kind of casually eating your dinner and talking, Katya, you post up on the mattress there, and it's a little uncomfortable, but you're pretty sure it beats the ground. And how long are you thinking you want to sleep for? It is now 22:15, and for clarity from a rule perspective, if you rest for 1 hour, you'd reduce your exhaustion level by 1, which would have you back to being theoretically good to go. But you do also have a fatigue point. Now, there are various things that you can do to get rid of that, but the easiest, and also would get you not having to necessarily operate during the night, would be to sleep for at least 6 hours. If you sleep 6 hours, it clears all of your exhaustion and all of your fatigue.
I think she would probably sleep for about the 6 hours, just because it's dark outside and she's of little use in the dark.
So
And
6 hours would have you up at 4 in the morning.
What if we pushed it to like daybreak?
Okay.
That way
Around
we
like
have
6
light to
a.m.
see. Yeah, and nothing can like sneak up on us in the
That
dark.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Look here, I don't want to come eye to eye with another scorpion, okay?
And you do have the ability with your Pip-Boy to set an alarm, so it's very easy for you to ensure that you'll get up at the time that you're wanting to get up at.
She definitely sets her alarm. Just like very sleepily. Just
All right. And you fade off to sleep there. And Betty, over the course of the evening, continues to monitor everything and make sure you sleep well and soundly. Thankfully, the night goes without much issue at all there. 6 o'clock rolls around, and by that point, for Katya, you'd be thirsty. You would have gone up to the second tier of thirst over the course of the evening, so you actually wake up thirsty rather than just parched. You would also be peckish at this point, so you'd be at the first tier of hunger.
When they
I think
wake up, Betty is kind of humming to herself, and she's found a partially charred Picket Fences magazine that she's like been paging through.
she kind of like sets up. Ow. Okay. These mattresses are not comfortable. She'll like roll off of it just enough to try and stand up.
I'm also going to need you, Katya, to make a survival check for me.
Oh no. How do I do the thing?
That, since it is a standard survival check, you can actually just click on the skill and it should pop it up for you.
Okay.
Now, it is going to be with a difficulty of 2.
Error not found.
Error not found. Error not found, Alex. All right, I'll roll it. Okay.
Yep. 2
Is
difficulty.
this a negativo on all of it? I said no.
All right. Do you want to spend any luck points for rerolls there? You do have 6 luck right now.
Yeah, I'll spend 2 of them.
Okay.
We're living on the edge here. It's all fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine. Haha.
All right, 2 successes.
Very
Bring you
nice.
down to 4 luck there. And then, let's see here. We'll throw your thirst and hunger on the screen as well for folks. And how do you want to go about addressing those?
About of the thirst.
Thirst and hunger. Hunger's tier 1 and thirst is tier 2.
She's not too worried about the hunger right now,
Okay.
but she'll probably drink another bottle of water.
All right.
And then before we leave, she'll probably fill it up on the stream again. Those 2.
One of the dirty bottles?
She has 2 empty bottles now.
Okay.
So
So since it's a dirty water, that's going to move you back 1 tier.
I have to
on
make another
thirst.
roll.
And you will need to make a roll.
Dang it!
You-
You're not friends today.
Oh, and it looks like we are going to grab a rad there. So bump your total rads up to 2, if you could for me. And let me update a couple of details real quick for you.
Second cover, neighbors. Good morning, neighbors.
Good morning, Betty. How was your night?
Quiet, as usual. I would say it's actually kind of comforting to hear breathing from humans.
I'm glad you didn't say snoring, because I know I snore, because the kid's given me enough grief about it.
Maybe we need to see one of those Dr. Handies and have some surgery done to correct that.
Yes, it'll be on the list. So just be very far down on the list. Chip first. Let's see. We gotta go to the vault. Well, hopefully the vault's got one. Maybe this one's in good shape.
What was life in the vault like?
It wasn't bad. I mean, everything broke down all so often, so like it was a lot of repairs. I mean, you know, one thing would work one day and then it wouldn't the next, and then there'd be repair people everywhere, and then it'd be fixed and something else would break. But overall it was good. I mean, we had, I guess, a normal life.
Oh, that is a huge luxury to have repair people be able to come and fix your appliances. When my garbage disposal went out, I couldn't find anybody. And I think the last repair person I did find as a charred corpse.
Oh. I mean,
It was kind of tragic.
It's when you I don't want to be too personal, but did you lose a lot of people that you knew?
Well, I can't say I knew a lot of people. I suppose the store clerks and anyone on my usual routes. They all had very friendly faces, but I can't say I got too personal, as you would say. It was transactional. And Mr. User Not Found didn't have any family that I am aware of.
It must be just very different. I mean, I honestly can't think of what it would be like to like know people and then they're just gone.
Oh, it was pretty instant. There were flashes of light, and my sensors read heat off the charts.
Oh.
Knocked around a bit by some of the the blast waves. I picked myself up, dusted myself off, and cleaned up the broken glass. And had to scrub away some of the silhouettes that burned themselves on the outside of the house.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Nuclear blasts are very interesting in how their active destruction causes all kinds of really interesting effects.
It certainly sounds like it. I hadn't honestly thought about what it would be like. I mean, it's a lot, you know, and just still trying to process everything, I guess.
Oh, well, you'll have plenty of time, and I'll help guide you through it.
Oh, I appreciate that, Betty. It's nice to know we have somebody here. So shall we get a move on?
At your leisure.
I'm gonna stop by the stream and fill these water up. Well, that way at least I don't have to buy any more water.
Go ahead
That's
and
some
make
good
sure
thinking.
to swap your bottles over for dirty water there.
May they be more friendly.
Not give you all that lovely, lovely radiation. Radiation. Gotta love the Fallout world. So, presently, you're all in the town of something. In
Something.
what would have been pre-war Illinois.
I feel like Katya's just named it Safe Haven.
Safe Haven. That works. Now, from here, you do have a couple of options. You can tell by looking at your Pip-Boy that to get to the vault, you're going to have to go off of the beaten path of the highway eventually. When you choose to do that is certainly up to you. You could make your way back out of the ruins and start following the highway east again and potentially cut down through the national park and then make your way to the vault heading south. Or you could try to swing down to the next cross section of highway and then take the next highway south, which should put you fairly near to the vault itself. It would allow you to bypass the park and the off-road travel at least a little bit. But tough choices, because roads themselves, that's going to be the more likely spot for you to run into people, whether that's a good or a bad thing. Getting off-road, that's where you're more likely to run into critters of the Wasteland, whether that's a good or a bad thing. So what are y'all thinking for travel plans?
I think for Kat it would be just to go down to that second junction because it'll be closer to where the vault is, and it'll still be on the road. That way they're least likely to be jumped by something. And also because they won't get lost in the forest.
That's fair.
She's thinking logically and with her mother hen brain. She's just like, no, we're going to be the safe about this. We don't have to stop and look for traffic, but we're going to be safe about this.
All right. So
Normally I'd be for a jaunt in the park, but after our encounter with those giant insects, I'm thinking twice.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't want I mean, I don't know really what animals were around here to begin with, but if the spider or if the scorpion and the ants got big, I'm only imagining what else decided to go. or develop more arms or something.
Or to meet up with one of those, what did the doctor call them? Death claws. Yes.
I have honestly no idea what that is, but I don't really think we should run into it.
Giant reptilian creatures with razor sharp claws.
I wonder how. No, we're just gonna. We're just walking. We're just gonna walk now.
One swipe of those could easily cut through my metal like butter.
And I think that's the scariest thing, because you're more sturdy than I am, and yeah, I just think for safety's sake, I think we just stick to the road. And, you know, maybe the forest when we have more eyes.
All right.
I'm right behind you.
Now, off down the highway we will begin to travel here. And judging by the distance on your Pip-Boy, because you can get a general read of how far things might be depending upon where you're heading. You figure that it's going to be about probably a 3-hour walk to get down to the junction that you were referring to, and then from there maybe about another hour and a half or so to make it fully to roughly where the vault should be located. So, as we go ahead and start trotting along here, I've already gone ahead and done some things in the background in regards to checking on some encounter checks and everything like that we might run into. And thankfully, this next little stretch here that you're going to hit is going to go by without any trouble. No events strike up for you. However, as you do start making your way to the junction, you start seeing signs indicating that there is another little post-war or pre-war, settlement, somewhat near to the area that you're heading to. One of the signs you are able to actually directly make out, and it says that the town went by the name of Lena, Lena. And as you get up to the cross junction, you're actually able to just generally see the ruins a little bit off in the distance. They're just to the north of you, heading up the road, so technically in the opposite direction of where you'd be wanting to head for the vault. So I would assume that more than likely you're going to bypass those for the time being, unless there is any desperate need for looting amongst the group. Oh, and that does remind me, each of you take 5 experience for discovering the other pre-war ruins that you discovered back there.
Okay. So Lena is one that we're near, but if we go down to 66, it's not on the same way.
Correct. So Lena is going to be just to the north of where you're currently at, that little undiscovered location above you. And then the vault, you would actually want to head south in order to actually make it there. Now, by the time you get to this junction here, that'll actually also bring it up to 9:30 a.m. So that will have Katya back up to tier 2 of thirst.
You humans dehydrate really fast.
We really do. At this point, I'm just rolling with it now. I mean, I think it's just the walking. It's like we walked in the vault, but we also had water that was decently plentiful. It's here. It's really only this stuff. It doesn't taste bad, but occasionally it makes my stomach hurt.
And to be fair, being at tier 2 thirst doesn't actually get you to the point of having any fatigue just yet. When you taper over into the next tier is when you would actually get your first point of fatigue from that. All right. So with that in mind, I take it that we are going to continue our ventures south here and start making our way down to the vault. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All
Yep.
right.
Don't see any reason to delay the inevitable.
So we will, let me just make a quick update to our map here. Bloop. Okay. So you continue on down the way. And again, this next stretch isn't really much of a problem for you. The total time that it's going to take you is going to push it to about 11 a.m. And at this point, you'll actually finally be drawing up to the vault itself. So for about an hour and 10 minutes or so, you were walking south along this highway and then eventually needed to break off and make your way off into the far outskirts of what is more than likely still part of that national forest that you had seen signs for on the previous highway. And as you draw up to the location of where the vault itself should be, you realize very quickly that you are certainly in the correct place. Although things don't look exactly as you would have expected. Now, real quick, before we dive into all that, let me just do another quick little check here. All right.
Surprise, 10 death claws pop out.
No, thankfully not that.
We're all
but
dead.
you are now far enough in that your hunger as well, Katya, is also going to move up to tier 2. Now, again, thankfully,
The
at
woes
tier
of being
2,
human.
you are still not actually taking any fatigue just yet. It's just that both of your statuses now are essentially at the threshold cusp where when you move into the next status with either of them, you will take fatigue. Now, with that in mind, let me update to when you will next move. Okay. Thankfully, that's not going to be too bad for you. Again, hunger moves much slower than thirst does, obviously, just like in reality. So food will become a problem eventually here, but you've still got a good ways to go before it does. The thirst is going to be a problem a little bit sooner than all of that.
We just need to hook you up to an IV.
Do those even still exist?
I'm sure I could fashion one.
Yeah, okay, it's possible. All right. Right, okay, let's see if they have something. Maybe they've got water and food inside.
So as you make your way through what is, at this point in time, a very desiccated and devastated pre-war forest. None of the trees themselves really appear to be alive anymore, though there's still a surprising number of them still standing. Leads you to believe that at least this particular area of the Midwest didn't get directly hit by a nuke. I'm sure there are areas around here that potentially did, but where you are right now doesn't seem to have been a target in that whole massive insanity that was the Great War. But as you draw up to where the vault door itself should be, or at least the entrance into whatever kind of system leads you to the vault door, because all of them are typically buried under the earth itself as an extra layer of protection, you start seeing these clearly cobbled together post-war structures. Walls, specifically. Well, more of a fence. Has razor wire up at the top. A makeshift door has been made that a lock has been clamped onto. And based on what your Pip-Boy is telling you, it looks like you should be right at the vault entrance at this point. Which, with that in mind, go ahead and each of you take another 5 experience for discovering yet another location around the Windy Wasteland. After a few moments just kind of looking around the general area and getting a read of things, you become positive that whatever this post-war fencing situation is, it is blocking off the entrance into the chambers that would lead up to the vault door.
Well, looks like we gotta go through this fence.
This was crudely constructed. Doesn't seem like the vault dwellers would have created such rudimentary defenses. Unless something catastrophic happened in the vault.
I mean, it's always a possibility. I hope not. I mean, ours was falling apart. If someone else's was, maybe it wasn't as safe. She's like looking at the fence to see, just in general. Well, I guess we should have gone to that city back there. Maybe they could have told us what's going on here, because I don't know if we want to. I don't know if we really want to poke it. I mean, it's either keeping something else out or something in.
Well, I don't think there's any sense not knocking on the door, at least.
That's true. Let's see. She's gonna look to see if there's a way in.
There is a door that has been fashioned as part of this whole fence/gate system, and it does have it does appear to have been locked from the outside, because there is chain kind of holding it together with a lock clamped into place around the chain to keep people out.
She'll like knock on it, see if she hears anything.
You hear a hard sound of metal kind of displacing a little bit and rubbing against other pieces of metal in this cobbled together structure as you bang on what would be the door. It makes quite a bit of noise. You can kind of hear it start echoing off into some chambers that must clearly be just on the other side. Again, if it's anything like your own vault, it would likely be some tunnels leading off eventually to the vault door heading into the hills here. But there's no response.
That's weird. I mean, maybe they're sealed in.
Betty's also gonna knock, wrap her pincers against the door.
Makes a even louder noise, honestly, than when Katya banged on it.
Yeah. Hello, this is Homemaker here. Is anybody interested in any timeshares? We have wonderful vacation spots. Some are seaside, some are mountaintop. Either way, you get a great view.
You wait for a few moments. Still seems to be no response from the other side.
I'm gonna try the door.
Well, it is locked.
Well,
And I did not take big lock picking.
if you don't tell anybody that I picked this up, it's fine. Katya will try to pick the lock.
All right. So, do you happen to have any bobby pins or a lockpick set or a multi-tool even would allow you to try to?
I have a multi-tool.
I will, if Betty will allow me, I will borrow her multi-tool.
Yep.
To be very gentle with it.
All right. So you will be making a lock-picking check here. It will be a difficulty 3 due to not having the appropriate type of tool. So you're using a kind of improvised tool through the multi-tool. It's not specifically designed for lock-picking.
Okay. And we will do a check here, which is luckiest because I have that perk.
And if you want, there are still 3 action points as well. So if you wanted to pick up any additional dice.
Dang it.
You do also still have 4 luck points if you wanted to re-roll any of your dice.
I actually will re-roll, but I'm going to use my perk of Infiltrator to re-roll a
Ooh.
die.
Does that let you just re-roll 1?
It just says 1.
Okay. Now do keep in mind that you do need 3 successes here, so you may want to re-roll both and still spend a luck point to get the other one re-rolled.
I'll spend a luck point on the other one.
Okay.
That's the wrong button. Me and technology are just not friends today. I don't know what's going on. Well, let me bonk that luck off. I got 1.
All right. And then Betty, if you wanted to, since the primary lead on the check got a success, you would be able to go ahead and assist, even though your target number won't be that great on a lockpick since you don't have the actual lockpick skill. But
Sure. All right. So what is that?
lockpick at
Intelligence?
1d20, which you should be able to just click on lockpick and then
Oh,
set it
gotcha.
to 1d20.
Yeah.
All right, and you did get a success there.
Hey.
And no complications. Okay. All right. So it wasn't quite enough successes total to get past the lock. You can definitely feel like it feels like you're making progress on it. You think if you took a bit more time, you'd be able to potentially actually get your way through. So this is a spot where you can choose to win at a cost. Now, what that cost would be, presently, I was going to say that it was going to take you 15 minutes to try to pick the lock standard. However, we would double that, so it would take a half hour working on the lock here. Additionally, I will also gain an action point. The choice is yours. You can fail or win at a cost.
Part of me really doesn't want to give you another point. Because then you use it against us.
That's
I
the
can.
point.
But I'm all for taking that little bit of extra time.
All right, so the extra time and the action point, so we will put it up to 11:30 here.
I will figure out a way to make you spend that luck point. or that point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sure I'll spend it eventually.
May the dice be extremely unkind to you tonight.
So you guys, Kachi, you keep working at it, and Betty has one of her eye stalks down there, keeping a close look at the actual device and interjecting with points and tips and assistance as best she can as you go along. Like, oh, it looks like if you move it to the left a little bit.
Now apply pressure here. Scrub the tumblers.
And after a bit of time, the lock does finally pop open.
Teamwork.
And you
Pincer.
unwrap the chain from the door. It makes a fairly good amount of noise as you pull metal through metal, essentially there. And then slide the gate itself open. And before you is what essentially looks like a mine shaft tunnel that leads off into the hillsides here. It's dark. Now, thankfully, Katya, your Pip-Boy does have a very bright backlit monitor. So the neat thing about those is that if you turn them on to their full brightness, you can kind of treat it as basically equivocal to like what a smartphone flashlight kind of amount of light would give you. So you do have a way to potentially light your way through the actual tunnels and make your way closer into where the vault itself should be, should that be what you desire to do. But again, as I said, you've opened it up, and it's very clear that the tunnel to the vault is before you. It's quiet. You hear slight breeze whistling in the tunnel itself.
She will turn up her Pip-Boy.
All right.
All right, I think.
And Betty lifts her flamer and
Gets a little bit of additional light into the situation, because yes,
Yeah.
that will absolutely work as well. And the two of you, three of you actually, because Aiden will go ahead and also ramp up the brightness on her Pip-Boy as well and stride alongside the two of you as you head in. You make your way through a fairly long tunnel. Probably goes a good 200, 300 yards into the hillside, and eventually you come to this large open cavity. And in there are some metal walkways, stairs leading to various points, and a very large gear-looking vault door. But rather than the door itself being sealed, as you would initially expect, it's a vacant spot where that gear should fit. The door is wide open.
Oh.
You see some cabling running from within the vault into some kind of machine that seems to be above some kind of base that it's set up on top of, that sits just outside of the vault door itself. It's
this
giving off a slight hum.
this is weird, but okay.
can you examine it and see what its function is?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and give me a science check.
Yep.
And it will be a difficulty 1.
Nothing.
You're also able to try to make the check if you want, Katya. Be kind of checking it out.
I'm telling you that this will be a miracle.
You could still make it.
You good?
Oh, thank God.
And you got one.
I was
So
gonna say you could also break it.
kind of both moving around this device, and Betty's eyes are moving about quickly and darting up and down and trying to look at every nook and cranny. And Katya, you're kind of moving along, feeling things, and eventually you get down on one knee and kind of look under the bottom of the machine. And you notice that the cabling runs into the back side of this machine, and then more cabling appears to run out the bottom into the ground below. So the platform itself is seemingly covering some kind of shaft that exists below the shaft you're currently in, and the cabling is running down into that.
Well, it's certainly
As
blocking something.
best as you can tell, it's essentially an electrical hub, is what this device is acting as. Now, you're not sure if it's for data or electricity specifically or some other resource from the vault, but something is being taken from this vault, either data, electricity, water, air, maybe even, and being processed through and out somewhere outside of this facility. Now, obviously, since the vault door itself ends up having to be open for the connections to run from in the vault to this device, that is why you would suspect that whoever set this place up, built the fencing and gating at the entrance to the actual shaft itself. Keep the vault itself protected, since the vault door can no longer do that.
Yeah, or something. I don't know if they're taking something from it, using it for something. Can we get into the vault, or is it completely blocking the door?
No. You can absolutely get in. It's not that large of a device. It stands maybe like roughly 5 or 6 feet tall, and it's maybe about 4 foot by 4 foot in width and depth.
She'll step around it just to look inside the vault.
When you first peek in, it's as you would expect, other than maybe the lighting is a bit lower than you would be accustomed to. But it's a vault entrance, essentially. So you can see as you look around the corner that the vault door itself is just over there in the open position. It had been pulled out and rolled across. And then there is a few platforms in here. The hydraulic press to grab and move around that massive vault door. And then another pressurized door in the far back of the room that would lead off further into the vault. Now, normally this room would still be fairly well lit in most vaults, but in here, it seems that only some emergency running lights are actually still operational in the area. It gives it a very dimly lit appearance inside the vault, a very eerie glow to it.
This is more familiar, but low light, doors open. She'll step inside and just like try and shine just a little bit to see if she can see anything that looks like maybe something happened.
Nothing specifically other than the device outside of the vault door itself and the cabling running to it that comes from within the vault itself. Now, the cabling you can see does seem to run off and attach to the cables that are right in this main entranceway here that then run further off into the vault. And you're pretty sure if you went into the vault, you could follow what these lines are for and to whatever source it is that they're coming from. But that would take, obviously, then venturing into the vault here, which is, in fairness, potentially the reason why you came here. Now, I will point out you were left with not being sure 100% what to expect when you got to Vault 66. In fact, while this situation is weird, it still might be playing to your advantage, because obviously if the vault was still functioning and running, much like Vault 53, they weren't going to want to give up their control chip anyway. But if the vault is inactive, potentially, you might be able to just essentially plunder what it is that you need.
Is there any obvious way down the tunnel that the cables go down?
Not from this side that you can see, no.
Okay.
Not without necessarily unhooking the machine and then moving it and getting down into the tunnels. If they do any repair in the tunnels or maintenance with the tunnels, they likely come from a different location, possibly coming in from wherever it is that the cables are going to.
Gotcha.
I certainly hope that your vault isn't as dark as this. I would have imagined that you would have developed some sort of blind sense, having grown up in this kind of environment.
Well, normally there's a lot more light, which makes me think it's maybe in a low power status. I mean, if I don't hear any people, so maybe they were the ones that got the all clear. Maybe we just never did.
An all clear? I can imagine that any of the vaults would have been given an all clear, considering it's not all clear.
It definitely isn't. Maybe this is good though. Maybe if they did leave, maybe they had a reason to. Maybe their chip's still here. We can just go get it.
Well, they're certainly not using it. I'm sure they could be a good neighbor and lend it to you.
I hope so.
Aiden shrugs and says, "We've come all this way. We might as well check."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not there, it's at least one thing we can scratch off the list.
All right. And you make your way up a set of stairs up onto a metal walkway and over to the door that leads further into the vault. And you kind of twist the little hatch and push it open. Now, as you open the door from the entryway and further into the vault, Katya, for you and Aiden, this is eerily familiar, yet different, wrong, maybe. You find yourself in a hall, corridor, cement and steel. You see the cabling running along with you here. And as you move through the corridor, it opens up into a large, kind of open room. Very vaulted ceiling. 2 floors completely open. There's a catwalk, a series of catwalks that move around the upper part of it that connect to some other level of the vault that all comes in here. You see one large window down at the end of this room and kind of placed in the center, overlooking all of this massive area. And Katya and Aiden, you immediately realize that you're in the vault Atrium. It's exactly identical to your own vault, 100% in its layout. You know that that large center window is a window into the overseer's private offices. That gives the overseer of the vault the ability to overlook this large area whenever they need to. This is where most various vault functions would happen. That would be major events, so any celebrations would typically happen here. Various vault gatherings and meetings, and then even sporting events. So when the vault baseball team has a game, they play it in the atrium because it is the largest
kind of most open area specifically designed for that in the vault. You know that means after you look through a couple hallways and kind of get a rough feel of how things are moving here, that you can easily guide your way through this vault. Now, what's strange about it is the vault itself seems very stripped down. All of the various mechanisms and components that you would expect seem to have been broken down and taken out. Various paneling that is placed up to cover some of the various guts of the vault itself have been ripped off, and the guts behind those panels have been, again, stripped away and fully removed. The vault seems to have been more than just the odd bits of loot here and there that you've found in other pre-war locations since your time in the Wasteland. The vault itself has seemingly been starting to be cannibalized for its materials. It's a very haunting feeling as you move through, but you realize that due to the fact that its layout is the exact same as Vault 53, and it immediately begs the question, do all vaults share the same layout, or are there differences? You know, Betty mentioned that a big pre-war fad was prefabrication, so it is very possible that maybe Vault Tech just had various modules of different rooms and corridors that just you plop into place after you carve out your area. But you know you can quickly navigate your way through this place with absolute ease. You know where everything should be. You've spent your whole life in this exact floor plan. That means you know where the reactor room is. It means you know where the armory should be located, how to get to the overseer's office, where the domiciles will be, where the medical lab should be located, and so on and so on. So where is it that you would like to go first?
As much as she wants to go get the chip first, I think she's going to go to the overseer's office.
All right. You start making your way through. Eventually you come to a staircase that leads you up to another level, and you end up coming out onto the catwalks over top of the atrium yet again, down towards the wall that had the window on it, and off into a side hallway that weaves around and eventually brings you to a door that would be for the overseer's office itself. Now, typically in a vault, the overseer would normally keep the office locked. There would be ways for you to bypass that, of course, because the vault locks aren't mechanical locks. They are electrical locks that you can potentially even tap into with a Pip-Boy directly to try to bypass them. But the overseer's office isn't locked. The door is shut when you get there, but you pop the panel to activate the door and it immediately slides open.
Well, that's good. So this is the overseer's office. It's like the person who runs the vault. So like she's giving Betty like a slight tour, since this is more of like something she's familiar with, but just like explaining, like, so with the Atrium, it's been like, oh yeah, we occasionally play vault games in here. My team is not always the best, but you know, we can't be picky. And like just a little bit like explaining where everything is. But the overseer's office, she's like, so if something's happened here, this will probably be the best place to find information.
And Betty's eye stalks are dancing from point to point, just taking in every aspect of this, occasionally remarking about how if they had a Mrs. Homemaker model in the vault, it wouldn't be as sturdy, and maybe a Mr. Handy or two would have prevented the need to cannibalize everything. Really upselling robots in general.
Catchy's like, yeah, no, they would have been a lot better help. Just this. I'm wondering what happened here. Like, it's weird that nobody's here. And she will go and see if like there's a terminal or something she can poke with.
So as you enter into the overseer's office, you immediately notice again it's fairly stripped down from what you would expect. The various monitor embankment that would rest on one of the walls that gave them access to the various camera feeds throughout the vault so that they could monitor what was happening. Those have been all stripped away. The chairs are gone. The lockers that you would normally see in here, as the overseer did have a few private storage lockers in their office, those have been removed. The desk still remains, though. A large overseer's desk. You remember the desk very well. It's this big, kind of almost horseshoe-shaped desk that the overseer would sit behind. The overseer's chair is also gone as well, just like the other chairs in the room. But the terminal at the overseer's desk is sitting there glowing green. You hear a slight hum.
She'll go over and see if like she can get into it.
All right. So you make your way up to the terminal, and as you launch it up, it immediately begins asking you for a login credential, and you realize you're going to have to attempt to hack this system if you wanted to try to actually access any information that might be on it.
Betty, I don't know how good you are with other computers.
I'm quickly learning.
You think you could get in? Because I know I don't have a login.
Certainly try.
Betty, you come over to the terminal and use your little pincer arm to reboot the system into the BIOS mode. And it reads Vault Tech Systems, Vault 66 Administrative, password required. So this will be a security rating 3 science check, which means you'll need 3 successes on a science check in order to be able to hack into this terminal.
Cracking the pincers.
Now, again, as just a general reminder here, you do have 3 action points available to you right now.
Yep.
So you could get some extra dice.
Oof.
You do also still have 1 luck point left yourself there, so if you needed to, you could also...
About the action point, save that luck point.
Okay.
Now, with the 3 action points that you have available, you could theoretically buy 2 dice for this check if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That would eat up
because
the total
the
pool.
second one is 2 AP, isn't it?
So it's just the way they do it is it's 1, 3, and 6 is the cost for 1, 2, or 3 action points.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much the same. Ooh, they'll be using all our action points.
Would indeed. But it would get you 2 dice, so it would fairly well ensure that you could get into this terminal. However, if you wanted to, you could always, because there may be other terminals as well throughout this facility that you may end up wanting to try to get into. Some of them could also be secured as well. So it's really up to you to determine if you think it's worth it for the Overseer's terminal specifically.
What do you think, Katya?
I feel like the Overseer's terminal's gonna have the best information, simply because they get all the secrets.
Yeah, I mean, high risk, high reward, right?
But if we're able to get into this one, could we theoretically find the Overseer's login information? Maybe there's a sticky note somewhere.
That is very unlikely with how stripped down this vault is.
Yeah.
Dang it.
All right. Well, You know what? Let's roll it. We'll do the 2 extra.
You can grab 2 dice.
Yeah.
All right.
And hope we don't live to regret this.
Now, there's other ways that you can generate action points if you end up needing to, so don't necessarily worry about burning through them all right now.
Yeah.
Katya, you can provide an assist, and you do also still have the ability to throw luck at it if you want to, Betty. You do have 1 luck point, so you could re-roll one of those if you wanted.
So I'm gonna do a check. It's just 1, right?
Yep, 1 die.
Let's see here. Yeet. No.
Oh, well, we tried.
We tried.
So you attempt to see if you can decipher the password by scooting through the BIOS, and you take a few stabs at it, and eventually the screen flashes over to error 0xF141A013. Invalid login. Terminal locked. Please contact an administrator.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
joke's on you. It's Linux.
Watch as Vault Tech would use some.
I mean, it basically is. That's kind of what they used as the inspiration for the most part for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we tried.
Now, that said, there are some ways that you could potentially end up still getting into this terminal eventually. One, as Katya mentioned, although it's not going to be an easy prospect and certainly likely isn't going to involve being in the vault itself, you could attempt to acquire a password to this terminal. There might be someone out there in the world that actually has access to it. Additionally, you can potentially gain a perk eventually when you're leveling up, where if you have any locked up any terminals or potentially broken any locks that you can't get past anymore and aren't allowed to take additional attempts on, you can get an additional attempt to try to get in them. So depending upon if you end up picking up that perk, or if you find the password, or if you end up just eventually not caring what the Overseer's terminal may have potentially contained inside of it, the choice will be up to you.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I seem to have locked it out.
You know, we tried. You know, maybe there was just something boring in there, like paperwork. Let's see if we can find that chip. Let's see. That's my next goal. Although we could also stop by the medic area and see if they've got anything left. I mean, it's doubtful, but we could try. Maybe find you some more tools or something.
Oh, I'm sure we'll find that in the maintenance area.
She's gonna head to see where the chip is.
All right. So you
And if we
start.
pass
Just
any
gliding
room,
along behind.
she'll go into them to see if.
Oh
there's
yeah,
anything
you
left.
absolutely pass by a few various rooms along the way, like the library and things like that. But it seems like
They
most
took
of
the
them
books
are.
too.
Yep, most of them seem to be, well, holotapes would be
Oh,
more the thing in this universe at this point. Books did still exist, and there would have still been some in the library, but the vast majority of things would have been holotape entertainment medium.
Oh, they took everything.
But yeah, everything does seem to be fairly well stripped out. However, you do notice that as you're making your way to the reactor room, which is where you would need to go to potentially get your hands on this chip, the cabling that was coming from outside the vault seems to be running directly on to the reactor room. In fact, as you reach the reactor room, this is confirmed 100%. The cables are connected up to a very large reactor. There is a monitor on the reactor that is currently illuminated and running.
I'm gonna glide over and see what's on the screen.
All right. So you go to try to boot up the system, and it again, once
unsurprisingly, is asking you for a login. So you boot it into the BIOS, and it's the Vault Tech Systems Vault 66 Reactor Control. This would be a security rating 3 terminal as well.
Eye stalks just go. Well, no harm in trying, right?
Now, one of the things you can do is you can kind of try to give yourself a pep talk beforehand if you want to try to generate action points to have available for the check. That would be a rally check. It will cost you, obviously, some time as a result. So right now, after making it into the vault, wandering through for a little ways, getting to the overseer's office, fiddling with the computer, and then making your way eventually down to the reactor, it's been about another 15 minutes. So it's 11:45 a.m. at this point. As a reminder for Katya, you are still at Tier 2 Hunger and Thirst. Now, do keep in mind that if you do hit the next point, you will gain fatigue, and fatigue does take time to go away. You can't just, like, once you get it, even if you drink and bring your tears back down, the fatigue will still linger for a while, causing you problems until you get it rested off. So you may want to potentially avoid that.
But I think while she's letting
Pep
Betty
talking?
pep talk herself, interjecting with "You've got this, Betty. You've got this," she'll drink one of the dirty water.
All right, go ahead and give me a combat die check just to see if we get any rads.
I'm gonna die from water. This episode is gonna be.
Oh, you're still a long ways off from that. And no, you did not get any more rats. So you
Yay.
are fine. And that will pull you down, thankfully, to the Tier 1 Thirst. And let me update a couple notes on my end just to denote when exactly you'll need to worry about that again next.
Crying, that's what it is. Crying.
And Betty is over here like,
Come on, you've talked to other computers before. Heck, you talked a self-checkout cashier to let you use one of the coupons that had already been inserted.
And go ahead and make a quick difficulty 0 speech check.
I'm actually good at speech.
All right, that's
Woohoo!
going to generate 2 action points for you to throw into the pool again.
Okay.
So you sit there working up your circuits and getting yourself ready to go again, and you
Running
feel
through
pretty
algorithms.
you feel fairly confident by the time you finish up your pep talk. Now that's going to bring us up to we'll say you spend 5 minutes there.
Okay.
Pepping yourself up. So that's 11:50 in the morning. And there we go. Where's your action
then
points as well?
crack the pincers. Use an action point
All right.
for
So
an additional die.
get yourself up to 3 dice there.
Blah.
All right. Now you do still have your luck point.
Yeah. Nah.
All right. And Katya, you still can assist.
Roll a
These.
1.
Science.
Yep, science.
Just 1 dice.
Cooking with science.
Seriously.
Yeah, our dice don't like us today.
If anybody who is anyone familiar with Roll20, just ignore the stream right now because we're very unhappy
Right.
with it.
So once again,
It's actually getting kind of ridiculous.
you see an error code flash up onto the screen in front of you and gives you the invalid login terminal locked. Please contact an administrator message yet again. Now, Katya, that's unfortunate. And actually, you know what? I'm going to do something real quick.
He's gonna spend one of those action points and a death claw is gonna pop out of somewhere.
No.
Run!
I am going to actually remember that there is another character with y'all who can also roll to assist. And
Come on, Aiden.
we will let Aiden throw down on this.
Dang it.
Unfortunately, no. The dice are not rolling in favor here. Thankfully, it didn't generate a complication. It was real close. But
We've had a lot of those really closely.
I
it was right on the cusp there.
Mhm.
This game is like, no.
Now,
Terminals,
unfortunately,
no.
Katya, you realize with your knowledge of vault systems that without being able to get access to this terminal and be able to potentially engage proper shutdown procedures on the actual reactor itself, you can take the control chip. It will likely cause a reactor meltdown,
Yeah.
which will heavily irradiate a large area surrounding Vault 66.
Which might include that settlement of Lena.
Yeah, she won't do that. She, as much as she wants to go home and see her boy, she's like, these people out here are having a tough time enough.
Plus, you also have to ask yourself, as you start thinking about the whole situation here, what exactly is this reactor powering at this point? Because you can tell that, sure, it's kicking off some of its load to the vault itself to maintain what would be considered vital systems in the vault. That's why the reactor's terminal itself is still functional, why the overseer's terminal is still functional, and why you still have emergency running lights at various points throughout the vault. But the bulk of its power, because this, judging by the size of the reactor, it puts out a lot of power. I mean, it's obviously designed to power this whole vault. That power's going somewhere.
Guess maybe we should go check in, figure out where these cables are going.
Hmm.
It's taking the, and I'm like,
I can imagine how frustrating it is to be so close, yet so far.
I mean, I could take the chip, but this reactor will then melt down, and I don't. It's not worth saving my vault if I hurt innocent people.
I don't know. Wouldn't it be more of an equivalent exchange?
Well,
The equation balances out.
still, I mean, whatever they're using to power whatever these cables are for, maybe it's, maybe it's helping them out. Unless we could try and follow these cables, see where they go. Maybe
We
one
have
of
to
them.
go down into that tunnel, I believe, where the cables were dropping down into.
Yeah.
I didn't suppose you brought any climbing gear. I imagine it's going to be rather difficult.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Or we can go ask the town. Maybe they're the ones who set it up.
Well, looking at
That
your
is a heavy possibility.
looking at your Pip-Boy map, you know that there is a post-war settlement somewhat nearby. Now, for clarification's sake, Lena was not actually a settlement in and of itself. It's a pre-war location that's just ruins,
Gotcha.
essentially, much like the ones you slept in. However, back before Doc had taken off to deal with the remnants of the raiders that you found in Galena, he had pointed out a few locations and provided you coordinates for them on your Pip-Boy. And one of them was to a post-war settlement known as Underpass, which is just a little ways further down the road in the old pre-war ruins of a town called Freeport. So that would be a potential place that you could go look. In fact, it's, as far as you're aware, the closest settlement nearby that would so they may even be the ones that are utilizing the vault's power.
So that was told to me. I could pass it on to them.
That was told to the vault dwellers as well. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All
that
right.
was everyone is aware of that location as part of your map. Now, it is also possible that the cables might go elsewhere too, because again, they were buried underground. So once you trying to follow where they exactly went to, it was clear when you were coming in that they weren't buried anytime recently, because the ground itself just looked normal. So whoever did this years ago and has probably been pillaging the power from the vault for years, possibly decades. Who knows how long? It's been hundreds of years since the Great War at this point.
Perhaps we can find something in the vault that will guide us to where the residents of the vault have settled.
And with that, I'm going to kind of glide through the rooms, see if I can find another less secure terminal. One that's not going to be freaking stubborn.
So you go ahead, Katya.
I think Kat will follow, but just looking to see if, not a terminal, but see if maybe there was like a message left somewhere.
All right. So you start making your way around, and while you don't end up finding any other functional terminals over the course of this, you can see some spots where there definitely used to be terminals, but it looks like most of them have been scrapped and taken out of the vault. There are some random bits and bobs that you find around that are generally essentially useless, which is why you suspect that they're still here. But you do see like the remains of what look like they were balloons, blue and yellow ones potentially. It's really hard to tell. The remains are grimy and very brittle at this point, but you're fairly certain that they're the shells of balloons that have eventually deflated and popped, that are strewn in a few places throughout the vault. And when you come back into the atrium, over the multiple times that you cross through it, because many paths through this vault lead through the atrium, you notice that there's the remains of what appeared to have been a banner that may have been hung up in the vault at one point in time. It seems mostly stripped and torn down, but there is a bit of the fabric left over, and on it you can kind of see it was like a blue banner. There was clearly like a little yellow, what appears to be like the vault door symbol, and then REC before it gets to the point of having been ripped and torn, and the rest of whatever this banner was taken off somewhere.
Would she have any idea what REC might have been?
Give me an... Well, actually, I think that's an action point buy. Let me just double check. Yep, for one action point you can obtain information. And it would be based on a test, though. So we do still need to have a test associated with this. So I'm going to make it a... let's call it an intelligence and survival check. So this is not a standard, just click on the skill one. This will be another one where you click up on the top and then select your intelligence and then survival.
Then would I have to spend that luck or that point?
Potentially, but you may generate action points in the process of making the check as well. It's actually a difficulty 0, so if you get any successes at all, you will generate action points.
Okay, so intelligence and survival?
Yep.
2 dice or 1?
2 dice.
No, it's not a tech skill. Ah, I got one.
All right. So
Yee.
that will generate a bonus action point, which means you can use that bonus one essentially to go ahead and get the information that you're looking for without having to spend the one that you still have currently banked.
Yeah, I'll use the bonus one.
All right.
We won't.
No worries.
It's okay. It's okay. We got this
That's
tonight.
why we made the check. That's why we made the check. All right. So you spend the action point, and after a couple of minutes sitting there thinking about it, the only thing that you can think of in regards to a vault that might involve a banner and the letters REC would be Reclamation Day. Reclamation Day for the vaults is the day when, after having received the all clear from Vault Tech headquarters, the vaults were to get their residents together and release them back into the world to start rebuilding America. Reclaim America. Reclamation.
I know what this is. They got the all clear.
Oh, so they did get it. And they left the vault.
Yeah, they would have gone to form a settlement. But why did they get the all clear and we didn't?
I'm afraid those answers are buried on the overseer's terminal. Unfortunately, we couldn't get onto it. But maybe somebody in the settlements that they created knows something about the reclamation thing.
That's what I'm hoping. I think our best bet is to find these people and figure out what happened, because if they got the all clear and we didn't, there must have been some reason.
Maybe it was just miscommunication. That happens all the time, even between us robots.
That's true. So let's go find these guys.
And for all you know, with the proximity of where this underpass place is, maybe some of the descendants of the vault reside there. Maybe some of the people that actually directly left the vault, depending upon when the doors opened. It's hard to say when exactly this vault would have actually released its people. It's clearly been some time, because they've certainly had time to strip things, and someone's come in here and tapped into the reactor. But so you resolve yourselves after looking through the vault a bit and piecing together a little bit more of what may have happened here, to head to the city of Underpass. At this point, it's 12:15 in the afternoon, so just getting to be actual what Katya would have previously viewed as lunchtime. And as a reminder, as time continues to tick forward, at this point, Katya, you are still at Tier 1 Thirst and Tier 2 Hunger. And we have 3 luck points for Katya, 1 for Betty. And Katya, you do also have 2 rads right now. So, from where you are, to get to where you're going, I'm assuming that you're probably going to want to take the highways again. Or are we planning on doing some off-roading out in the wasteland?
Cross-country trekking.
I think it's back to the highways, just because, like, who knows what's in those forests, and the last thing she wants to do is get turned around. Because I feel like with the roads for her is because there's occasional signage. It might help them where they're going. Plus, can they see the roads on the Pip Boys?
Oh, you can at least see the highways for sure.
Yeah. So that's probably why she's using them for navigation, because it's just easier. Longer, but easier, because she doesn't want to get in the middle of like the wilderness, get misplaced and turned around.
All right. So based on using the highway route, you are estimating that it'll probably be about another 6 hours of a walk to get to the Freeport ruins. Now, again, as I mentioned, I did a little bit of the checks for things behind the scenes here for this evening's show. And thankfully for y'all, encounter checks are not super common. So you are able to manage to make this next leg of the journey as well without any complications along the way. Now, with that said, over the course of that, Katya, you will certainly be getting hungrier and thirstier. Now, I can say that the route that you are taking will pass you by a stream at one point here, so you will be able to potentially refill your supplies.
I think that's what she'll do, is she'll drink another bottle of the dirty water and then refill them when they walk by.
So you'll actually need a total of 2 for the totality of the walk.
Okay, so I'll do 2. Oh, this is why. 2, okay, here you go. Son of a language we shouldn't use on this show.
So that's going to be 2 more rads for Katya to bring you up to a total of 4.
Might want to use that rad away now.
That's what she's gonna do.
And how many rads will that diluted radaway clear for you?
Just 2.
2 of them? Okay, so that'll leave you with 2 rads remaining.
Yes, because I don't know if I have anything else. No, that was it.
And for the time being, once you arrive at town, you will not be thirsty. You will be down to your tier 0.
And I could have refilled the bottles?
Yes, and the water bottles have been refilled. So,
Yay.
that will...
It rolls decently now when it doesn't want, when it's like, no, she's gonna have radiation. This is it. I'm fighting with roll 20 tonight.
It is giving you a hard time.
Oh, poor Katya, you feel really warm tonight.
I think it's just all the walking. Maybe it's the water. It keeps making my stomach upset. I don't like it. But I have to drink something, so.
Well, that would be all the nuclear waste that and fallout that got into your water. It's nothing to worry about, though.
I hope not. I mean, although another hand would be pretty awesome.
All right.
Carry more stuff.
I will
Water.
go ahead.
The water that gives you another hand.
I'm going to go ahead and update the map details here a little bit. Both of you will get to take 10 experience because you're going to discover 2 locations over the process of this little jaunt here.
Creeping up.
Getting close to that very fantastic level 4.
Mm-hmm.
To underpass. All right, let me kick out a map update here. So, the 2 locations that you discover in the process of getting up to the actual post-war settlement here are the ruins of pre-war Freeport, and then additionally the settlement of Underpass itself. So Underpass, kind of in the approaching the center of the map a little bit, still in the northern quadrant, but getting towards that midpoint.
We're probably about a third of the way across the map here now. And Underpass is a strikingly large settlement. In particular, to Katya. Betty, you've watched humans struggle on trying to bounce back since the Great War, and for a while, the settlement of Mound View was actually larger than what it was then when Katya and Aiden first arrived there. That was after the settlement had befallen a number of setbacks that had started to dwindle it a little bit. However, you also haven't seen a post-war settlement necessarily this large. This is by far and away easily the largest location that you've found. It is, when you first draw up to it, you're moving through the ruins of Freeport, and you eventually start seeing this wall, probably about a good 12 feet tall, running down multiple blocks of the city and starting to encompass some of those ruins themselves. Periodically, you see what appears to be a little tower built into the wall structure, and you do see individuals up in those towers with various rifles, wearing what appears to be some kind of standardized uniform. Katya, you recognize it as being very similar to the outfit you yourself are wearing. Looks very similar to Vault security clothing.
Well, that's a good sign. Looks like we at least went in the right direction.
Now you immediately understand the name of the city as you're kind of taking this all in, because it appears that as you look over this kind of walled structure from the outside, that roughly where the center of town might be seems to be directly underneath an underpass where two highways in this area intersect. You slowly but surely start making your way up to what appears to be a gated entrance. There are a couple of individuals standing guard at it with, again, what appears to be a Vault security uniform on. It's padded armor over the chest, what appears to be a Vault jumpsuit underneath, a few extra bits of padding at the knees and elbows, a riot helmet that does appear to just have the faintest remnants of what appears to be the Vault Tech logo emblazoned onto it, although it seems to be much more worn and used than the helmet you yourself and Aiden have. They don't have weapons directly drawn, but they do have pistols holstered at their side and don't make any efforts to hide that. And as the three of you slowly but surely make your way towards them, raises their hand and says, "Greetings. Welcome to Underpass. We respectfully request that you keep all weapons holstered while you spend time in town and make sure to abide by standard rules of decency and general goodness, and you should have no problems here."
Well, hi, neighbor.
Very
Just
nice.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Passing by, and we're really curious about your wonderful, splendid city here. We'd like to take a look if we may.
Of course, we welcome all here at Underpass. You'll find that we have any amenity that your heart could desire. And
Considering I don't have a heart, that's going to be very difficult. but I'm sure that you'll meet our needs. What do you say, Katya?
It looks like a wonderful place. I think that it should meet our needs just fine.
Aiden is kind of looking around curiously as well. So you all holster any weapons that you may have at the moment and make your way through the city gates. And once inside, you realize that Underpass is kind of in some ways similar to Mound View in that it does use reclaimed buildings from the pre-war era, ones that were more stable and in a better state, and some which they've also just generally done some repairs to. But rather than having these makeshift scrap shacks like you saw in Mound View, there are actual like adobe structures that have been built, new buildings essentially throughout the settlement itself. There does also appear to be functional electricity throughout the town. There is a main area, as I mentioned, kind of underneath the underpass itself from the highway above. And there you see what appears to be an assortment of different vendor stalls, different little shops that people have erected, and thus serves as the commerce quadrant of the city. You recognize that there are obviously numerous homes and possibly a few other assorted buildings that are somehow associated to the maintenance and upkeep of such an endeavor. It appears to be that there's a spot as well where they have, as far as you can tell based on the way the containers look, some kind of water storage that they maintain for the town. It's possible that they even have running water in some of these buildings. It's quite impressive. Is there anything in particular any of y'all were looking for in the city itself, which as well is seemingly bustling with life? It would be hard to directly estimate how many people live here, but I mean, conservatively even, there's got to be more than 100.
Oh, this is very exciting. This reminds me of those outlets and residential areas pre-war. They're always so busy and lots of people and lots of places to shop.
This certainly is a lot more people than I've seen so far. This is very busy. Where do you think we should go first, Betty?
Oh, my mind's on some shopping, but I don't know what you have, what your priorities are.
Shopping's good. I'm really trying to find someone to get some information about what happened. But shopping first would be good.
Well, I tell you, if there aren't any established merchants, sometimes they're the best people to get information from because they have their finger on the pulse of the city.
All right. Well, let's go find a merchant. Can't hurt.
Yeah. Specifically, I think I'm gonna look for like a junk vendor or kind of like almost like a general store. So I can offload some of this junk and items that I've picked up.
All right. So as you're kind of making your way into the main square there, you see a number of different little vendor spots. As I mentioned, there appears to be, just from your quick glance around and perusal of what kind of wares they seem to have on display, One of them does appear to be more of like a general goods type store that just has some assorted odds and ends, even some overlap with a few of the other vendors there, just lesser quantity and supply.
Sure.
There also does appear to be a merchant selling forms of apparel. It looks like different clothing and even a little bit of armor seems to be on display there. There's another place that seems to be selling weapons. You see quite a wide array of different things on display, from melee weapons to what looks like maybe some explosive devices to handguns to very large guns, and you think you may even see a couple energy weapons over there. You also notice that there is a tavern that also doubles as a restaurant. So it's kind of like a bar and grill type of establishment. There is an inn, which seems to be offering both private rooms and a very similar to Mound View, a open kind of domicile room or hostel type environment. You do also see a clinic in the town. There's a clear sign of there being some kind of doctor that operates here, as well as a mechanic appears to have set up shop here, where of most interest to you, Betty, it seems that you notice a number of various robot components strewn about this particular vendor's shop. So,
yes, please.
Quite a wide array of potential options that you might be able to get into here. And I'd also like a perception and survival check from both of you.
Oh, sure. Perception, survival.
Just to see what other things you might notice around town.
2 dice.
Yep, 2.
Nope.
All right. And that was going to be a difficulty 0 check, so you're still going to get information here, Betty, but Katya, you did manage to generate an action point as a result of your roll, so I will add that to your total here. So we're back up to 2 in the player pool, just to keep everybody on track.
Slowly rebuilding our pool.
It fluctuates. That's action points are up and down, up and down. So as you're walking about, Katya, you also specifically notice 2 additional buildings in town that seem prominent, but not like the rest of the shops here in the main commerce area. And they seem to be sitting on the outskirts of the central hub here. One of them appears to be some kind of reclaimed pre-war structure that's been patched up in a few places to keep it structurally sound. The other one seems to be a very large, in comparison to any of the other ones that are in the town, adobe structure that both just they strike you as having very prominent placement in the city. They're clearly important in some way, but you're not entirely sure how. And then both of you happen to notice that the citizens of the town, there seems to be almost a division, maybe a class system of some kind. You've noticed that there's a chunk of individuals who are wearing these just very ragged post-war clothing. Very piecemeal and put together. There's additional individuals in the town. And by the way, the ones who seem more Wastelander looking, they either are, one, not an actual citizen of the town, maybe folks like yourselves who are visiting from elsewhere in the Waste and pit stopping here, or 2, absolute abject, living in abject poverty, if they are citizens.
There's an additional group that appears to be wearing what seems to be, I wouldn't call it pristine, but in better condition than you would have expected, pre-war clothing. It's, for Betty, it gives you this settlement gives you a sense of pre-war life more than anything else that you've seen in the Wastes. It really does feel like a lot of individuals just moving about in their park stroller outfits, their nice Sunday dresses, living their lives, and not like they are living in some kind of post-apocalyptic hellscape. Then there seems to be a third class of citizen. And these ones all seem to be wearing vault suits. There aren't that many of them in the grand scheme of the population, but they are all Vault 66 jumpsuits. Most of them look fairly pristine still.
Oh, people survived. Oh, this is exciting. I feel like I'm back in time.
I did notice 2 buildings over there that could be interesting to check out later. Maybe we can get some information. If
Oh, which buildings?
no, those over there.
Oh,
She'll point.
I will mark them up.
But merchant first. They're probably going to be easier to get information out of.
Absolutely. Maybe we talk to one of those that have the pre-war wear. They may be more privileged.
That's a good idea.
So we're gonna look for a merchant.
Which of the merchant stands are each of y'all interested in?
Well,
it could be the
looking for
same
one of
one,
the
could be different ones.
merchant who, well, does it, the general store merchant, what class does he appear to be part of?
Or all of the merchants seem to be wearing vault suits.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, then we'll head over to the general store.
All right, so Betty is hovering off over to the general store here. Katya, is there any specific shopping that you were interested in?
No, she's following Betty. She's like, she seems to be more in her element than I am. So she's going with Betty.
All right, so you both make your way over to the general store. There is a middle-aged man. He's got short cropped hair, well-maintained facial hair, full goatee. His hair is a kind of dusty, sandy brown, and he's got bright, beaming green eyes. And he smiles as you both step up to his stand there, where he's got numerous shelves kind of placed up inside this kind of reclaimed storefront that no longer has any windows built into the front, so it's kind of like an open type of environment in there. And a broad smile strikes across his face. Oh, I don't think I've seen either of you before. At this point, Katya and Betty, you both notice that Aiden seems to have been hanging back, kind of keeping an eye out in the main square and just seemingly trying to get a read on the town.
Hello, neighbor. We're new to the neighborhood and would love to partake in some of your wares and maybe even trade with you. And maybe get the talk of the town.
So, as it pertains to the actual trading here that you'll be able to do, Unfortunately, this was one of the areas that I didn't quite get to where I wanted it to be because I had said that I was going to start trying to have vendors have pre-designated stocks, but I didn't quite get there. So the general goods store, what he has available is, and this would start at page 91 in the core book, is where the various equipment lists start. For ammo, he has anything that's rarity 1 or lower. For small guns, also rarity 1 or lower. Melee weapons at rarity 1 or lower. Clothing at rarity 1 or lower. And then both an assortment of junk items, plus he also has anything in the miscellaneous category, and that starts on page 181, up to rarity 3.
Okay.
And that might be something that you might want to take a peek at, Katya, is the miscellaneous stuff, because there is various like camping supplies and stuff like that in that category that could potentially help you as you continue moving about the wasteland.
Oh yeah, like bobby pins and such.
Yep.
Page what?
That is going to be 181 is where that list is, and you can get anything on there potentially that is rarity 3 or less.
Backpack. Geiger counter.
Although thankfully for the vault dwellers, they do have built-in Geiger counters on their Pip
That's
Boys.
true.
So long as they can keep their Pip Boys.
I love those Pip Boys.
I think a lock or a couple bobby pins would be nice.
Well, each of you can go ahead and kind of jot up a little list here, and we'll end up taking care of that off screen because you will for sure get your shopping in at the general goods store here.
And I'll mark what I'm going to sell or barter.
Yeah, we'll handle it in the Discord offline between this episode and the next one.
Okay.
And we'll get both your selling and buying done there.
But in the meantime, while we're bartering, I am going to talk up the shopkeep and get an idea of the settlement and how it's set up and the society that's sprung up from Vault 66.
So go ahead and give me a speech check, actually. And that'll be at a difficulty of 2.
Okay. I am going to use an action point.
All right.
Oof.
All right. That will be fun. All right, so that is going to be a success.
I've actually been waiting for one of those. So, if I may, as she's talking to the gentleman, Betty starts to lose a little bit of perspective in regards to time, and kind of glitches that she's back in 2077, and is a little confused.
And Kaya, you're going to immediately kind of notice this as well, as Betty's chit-chatting with the store clerk there. Eventually, her speech pattern just, it gets a little wobbly for a minute, and then starts not making complete sense anymore. You definitely get this feeling that somehow Betty is displaced in a way.
She'll gently like put her hand up like on roughly what equates to a shoulder. Are you finding everything that you needed?
Oh, yes, thank you, ma'am. I'm talking to this nice gentleman, telling about how our milk delivery did not arrive on time, and I would like to settle our account. Anyway, as you were saying.
So at that, the clerk he's been getting slightly off put a little bit over the course of the conversation. He looks over at Katya and says, I think your bot's having a bit of an issue here. I see it's got looks like a nasty hole in its chassis there. You may want to take it over to Max. And he points out from his stall across the street to where the mechanic shop is, that does appear to also have a bunch of various robot components strewn about the shop area there. He's kind of a whiz with machinery, and I don't know. This one's got some ticks going on. I think it needs to be looked at.
Yep.
Oh, you worry too much. I'm just fine.
Betty, do you remember what the date is?
Why, yes. It date not found 2077.
It's actually not 2077. It's quite a bit later.
Oh, my clock must missed daylight savings time. I don't have to correct that.
Well, why don't we go to the person that this lovely gentleman suggested and maybe get it looked at now?
Oh, you insist.
Yes. Come on. She'll try to like get her to go towards the repair person shop, and also like look at Aiden like.
You slowly but surely start guiding Betty across the street over to Mac's machine shop. It's a portly gentleman wearing, again, much like the other shopkeepers, a vault suit, but it's a vault utility suit as opposed to just the standard jumpsuit. So it does have a few utility pockets and stuff built in to a few places around it. Unlike the other shopkeepers, his suit isn't pristine in any way, shape, or form. There's grease and oil and splotches all over it. He's clearly a person that enjoys working with his hands. He's got a big, bushy beard, kind of shoulder-length hair, a wispy blonde in color. And generally speaking, he seems rather cordial and friendly and upfront. He quickly ends up taking Betty into the back of the shop, where he immediately begins doing some work on primarily the chassis and checking out all of the various systems and things there. And while that process is going on, and Katya and Aiden are kind of sitting in the front of the shop waiting, two individuals wearing vault security uniforms and another individual wearing a vault jumpsuit walk into the shop and look over at the two vault dwellers and say, "If you'd be so kind," and this is the individual in between the two vault security officers, "your presence is requested by the overseer. Do follow us."
Our friend is being looked at.
They'll be fine.
Oh, okay. Hey Betty, we're gonna go with this gentleman real quick. But we'll come back, okay?
Well, this shouldn't take too long. I gotta get home and start the casserole.
Oh, okay. And she'll like look at Ada just like, Oh. And she'll go, oh, all right, we'll go see the overseer.
And the two of you step out of the shop and make your way towards one of those two buildings, in particular the large adobe structure. And that is where we will go ahead and pause things for now. We'll be back with you again next week to find out how things play out here in the town of Underpass, which more and more as time goes on appears to be where the residents of Vault 66 eventually landed. Hopefully things will go smoothly for everyone. But we'll have to wait till next week. Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a wonderful week. Take care.